novel, Zane is actually in this constant turmoil and angst over what he sees in the world. It doesn't quite fit with what we're told about the world, and it has everything to do with perception. Our perception of the world is how we interact with the universe, and there's a lot of very interesting things about how we perceive the world and how our consciousness actually creates the world. So it's a really important aspect of this book. I'm going to use sight as an example once again. So getting back to what I've previously talked about, we know that the Big Bang is sending energy that was once condensed into a very, very, very small space, exploding outward into the universe. And that energy is everything. Everything that you can think of, everything that you think is real, is the energy that exploded from the Big Bang. What's happening is this light energy is reflected off objects that we call real. When we get into quantum physics a little bit, you'll see that even the objects that we think are solid are really just space. They're just energy coagulated and congealed by the God particle into this thing that we perceive to be actually solid matter. So we have light hitting us. Some of this light energy is absorbed, some of this hits us and is reflected off. This energy then is captured by our eyeballs, which have evolved to protect us so that we can survive. So our eyeballs are looking at the world, and we have rods and cones in the back of our eyeballs. Light energy hits these rods and cones. If enough light energy hits them, they get triggered. Okay, they have to reach a certain threshold. That's why when it's dark, what we call dark, which is relative to our own eyes, we think, well, there's, we can't see anything. There has to be a certain amount of light energy reflected off things to excite these nerve endings at the back of our eyeballs to then fire this electrochemical impulse, which goes to our visual cortex and is then collated with different aspects of how we think about the world, our own prejudices and that type of thing, and boom, we have sight. Well, that's how it is for all of our senses. That's how all our senses work. There are over 2 million bits of energy hitting the human body every second, okay? And we only perceive a very, very tiny selective amount of that energy. And I say selective because what we choose to see is very much like a Google internet search. I mean, you put in a word, there's a ton of information out there. You put in a word and that's what you get back. That's how we perceive our universe, through this selective vision, okay? And that's how we make decisions about things, including, what we buy, what we wear, where we live, who we want to associate with, what that person, is he a threat, is he not a threat? So here's where we get into the ideas of how our mental conditioning, our upbringing, our training has a lot to do with what's going on in the world today. So when you look at a world that's being denigrated, the tragedy of our evolutionary shared history of all these plants and animals being destroyed just because people want to amass wealth, and the greed involved with that, it's a tragedy beyond words. Yet somehow it's okay, because as the universe is portrayed through us through television, internet, we kind of think, well, this is all cool, and it's okay for a while. When your mind's young and your body's young, you go along with it for a while. But if you continue to explore and learn things about what reality actually is and how we interact with our universe, you start to go, wait a minute, and you start to think a little bit more about what's happening around you. And that's what's going on in Zane's brain. This main character is going through a major meltdown. Things in his life aren't going that well, and he ends up going on a journey to find out what's really happening. And so this snippet of this novel is really a major player in the underlying theme of Zane's